With all the rumors of amazing scrim results during champs and strong results in the offseason so far, Sentinels fans are living off of endless amounts of hopium.
Sentinels. They are so insane for real in scrims.
And I'm here to give them even more, as I have concrete data from their recent performances which shows a significant improvement from the last VCT. In this video, we're going to take a closer look at Sentinels' performance in the offseason and compare it to their old performances by analyzing their strats and looking at unique data insights. And I'm not just talking about simple rating or ACS numbers. We're going to dive deep into the data about Sentinels. Finally, we'll also be looking at where they might need to still improve if they want to contest for the top. Let's jump right into some analysis of their matches from the Sentinels Invitational, and we'll start with a couple rounds against G2. G2's roster has always been solid since they first came onto the scene as the Guard in 2021. This makes them a great litmus test for Sentinels since they have a lot of reputable experience as a team. Out the gate, you can see that Sentinels are way more comfortable with executing complex attack side strats over consecutive rounds. Starting with this pistol round on Sunset, Sentinels run this sick B split strat. Their strong side takes B main while Cypher and Omen lurk through mid to pressure market. G2 makes a proactive play to take control of A main with the one-way Omen smoke and gather enough info to rotate B. Take note of how Sentinels leave top mid unsmoked, and this is important for this play to work. If top mid were actually smoked off, defenders can easily rotate from A to B since they can cross for free. But you can see two rotators get stuck worrying about a mid lurker, and the market defender is also distracted by them. This opens up a perfect timing for the strong side to flood out of B main and kill the player on sight. G2 responds really well by grouping to flush out the mid lurker, who seems like they're alone, but actually Omen was set up to help from tiles the entire time. Omen has a perfect spot to punish G2 if they overextended to clear out Cypher, and you can even see an exact moment of timing where Omen could have swung for a kill on Killjoy, but missed the timing and plays the lurk instead. The rest of the round is played cleanly as Sentinels stall the bomb to buy time for Omen to flank and confirm the round. On their bonus round, Sentinels read G2 perfectly by throwing a slight variation into their B split setup. In the first round, they had their strong side walk up B main while their Cypher lurked into mid, so they switch it up to hold B main while raise satchels aggressively up mid to pressure market and break the alarm bot. You can see that G2 actually did push B main and are not ready for the fast play through mid. This throws them into a chaotic state trying to defend market, and then this opens up another opportunity for Sentinels to take back B main while G2 are now preoccupied with mid. Simultaneously, John QTE calls for Sassy to fake A pressure, and this solidifies a great timing to actually take B. Sentinels end up losing in the post plant, which is something we're going to talk about later in the video, but watch what they do in the next round. Sentinels default the mid smoke to deny info from G2, who are expecting mid pressure from Sentinels because of the last couple rounds. But instead, Sentinels walk up A, and you can definitely see how G2 are preoccupied with mid control. Raze even rotates out for a second, which shows G2 don't have any reliable info in mid to make good rotates. The theory behind this idea was great, but their execution needed to be cleaned up. They waited a bit too long to hit the site, and once the smoke top mid cleared up, G2 can just send members to commit towards A. And now it becomes too easy for G2 to prepare a counter setup. Despite losing those rounds, you can still see that their theories are working effectively, and we were never able to see such complex attack side calling until they added John QT to their roster. Let me show you this final round, which completes their attack side sequence. As we saw from the previous rounds, Sentinels have been conditionally smoking top mid, and G2's top mid player has never been punished for peeking into mid at the start of the round. But this round, Sentinels go for a fast peek with the op and get the opening kill. After the kill, they drop the top mid smoke again, and now G2 are completely info starved. G2's compounding lack of control over several rounds is starting to get to them, and they decide to group up and push through market. But you can actually tell Sentinels have completely read this. 3 players in mid are waiting for a push, and if they were just positioned slightly better, G2 would have completely lost the round right here. TenZ was committed to holding the first push-out angle, but the rest of his team was committed to holding deeper pushes. Sentinels needed to commit together to one or the other. Either all players should hold deeper pushes, which means TenZ should have given up the first angle, or all players should be ready to fight the first angles with TenZ. Even though TenZ dies here, G2 are still very wary of mid, since they realized that Sentinels were just waiting for them to push and they just happened to kill one and get out. Watch how Leaf playing Raze has to rotate through spawn when going A, but he still isn't freed from his position as he has to hold the mid lurk, which opens up an opportunity for Sentinels to punish a player on A alone. There's so much compounding mid pressure that it still leads to a win for Sentinels, and for me, their attack side calling has completely transformed from last season. What we saw before did not indicate any complex understanding of the map or defensive rotations. This fracture pistol against Leviathan, for example, was just a contact B hit without any interesting ideas to give them an advantage. Sentinels work straight into a 4-stack on B, and as you'd expect, they lose the round. The difference between now and before becomes even more apparent when we look at how much map control Sentinels had throughout their attack rounds. A massive thanks to augment.gg for providing me the data for these segments. Check them out in the description of this video. The first graphic I'm going to show you is from their 7-13 loss against C9 last season. This is a heat map of all Sentinels player locations on split in the first 15 seconds of the round. Now, let me show you the same heat map from their recent match against Moist x Shopify. You can see that there is definitely a difference in how much map control Sentinels have now compared to before. Against C9 last season, Sentinels have barely crossed the barriers 15 seconds into the round, whereas now, they're already taking deeper mid and ramp control. Next, let me show you what their bind looks like now compared to before. This is all their player locations 30 seconds into the round. Now, this is what it looked like during their recent match against G2, still indicating an improvement in map control. Sentinels are getting a little further and deeper into defender territory 30 seconds into the round compared to before. Finally, let's look at where Sentinels players are 45 seconds into the round on Haven. This is last season against Loud during VCT Americas. And this is their recent match against Moist x Shopify. All these heat maps indicate that throughout the entire round, Sentinels are taking more space and getting things done earlier than they used to. Now, obviously, I didn't have a large sample size to work with, so nothing is conclusive, and there are a lot of considerations. For example, whether or not the defending team is particularly aggressive like Paper X. But the strats that I broke down and the data that I showed still hints that Sentinels are evolving in a positive way. However, we all know that map control means nothing if you don't have good mid-round calling and can't transition into those endgame scenarios. So let me show you one of my favorite clips from the Invitational, which I think truly highlights how much Sentinels have improved in their mid-round calling. This is a pistol round against Moist x Shopify on split, and Sentinels start the round with a really cool vent crunch play. The idea is to send Raze up ramp with this Omen smoke, which allows him to cross into heaven and prevent any players leaving vents. Simultaneously, 3 players plan to take control of mid, which will completely trap the players in vent from both sides. Unfortunately for Sentinels, Thief hits a nice shot in mid, and Zekin gets caught off guard when he gets double pushed into the smoke, despite technically having an advantage. Here's a cool side note to point out how MXS intended to clear this smoke. First, they Viper Molly to try and ensure that nobody can play inside of it. Then they immediately push into it after the Molly is over to be the first ones to take control. So now the round is very quickly a 3v5, and it's looking terrible for Sentinels, who probably would have never won this type of round in the past. Sentinels have traded 2 deaths for a lot of map control, and now have control of the best rotation path in the game between B Heaven and A Heaven. With Cypher in B Heaven and Breach and Omen in A Heaven, watch how they carefully play a balancing act between the sides, and are able to sneak John QT into a round-winning position. This opens up an opportunity to work into B. Because of their positioning, they win multiple favorable trades, and almost bring back a 3v5, which should have been completely unwinnable, but they just barely lose the last 1v1. Okay, so MXS also played their defense poorly. They should have maintained some info in mid, or been committed to sites and not continually rotating back and forth through their spawn. But still a very, very good mid-round from Sentinels. Okay, then their attack side has gotten a lot better, but what about Sentinels' defense? Has that really improved from last season? One of the main problems that I could see from last season was how nobody on Sentinels was really taking initiative on defense. Take these rounds against Lev, for example, during LCQ. I'm going to zoom in on the minimap here and play the round at 4x speed. Just watch how passively Sentinels played the entire round, and just let Lev get all the control that they want. Sentinels eventually get pushed further and further back onto sites and into their spawn, until the map is suffocating for them to defend. Ironically, this situation looks similar to how Sentinels just played MXS on attack, because Lev also used their control to eventually lurk downstairs and ultimately rotate back to B through vents. Here's another round from the same match, where Sentinels don't have a plan to control or contest anything, and are passively waiting for Lev. Zekin gets a solo kill when Lev pushes into vents, but it wasn't any coordinated or planned situation. The rest of the round again results in Sentinels getting pushed further and further back until they have no space to fight from. Their B players both get stuck in hell, while Lev are flooding out of heaven and lurking out of B main. It doesn't matter what kind of numbers advantage you have, if you have these positions, you're probably going to lose the round. Now I'm being a little bit harsh showing these specific clips because Sentinels did make some proactive plays before, and these are just some rounds where they didn't do anything at all. But in my opinion, they are still trending toward being more proactive than ever before. Against MXS on Split, we're seeing Zekin immediately set up deep into B main so they can stack toward the other side of the map. On Haven, they're pushing into both C long and A lobby, giving no room for Oxygen to breathe. On Sunset, they're constantly prepared to contest A main and find opportunities to make a stand before they lose all control of the site. Sentinels definitely have a different mindset on defense, and it's also what the data suggests as well. One metric we can look at is how many first blood Sentinels are getting on defense compared to before. Looking at all the matches from VCT Americas, Sentinels earned 99 first bloods out of 197 defensive rounds played. That's about a 50% first blood rate on defense. Then, if we look at all the matches from LCQ, Sentinels earned 29 first bloods out of 60 defensive rounds played, still just under a 50% first blood rate on defense. But if we look at all the matches from the Sentinels Invitational, they earned 55 first bloods out of 103 defensive rounds played, which is now well over 53%. There's a clear increase in first blood percentage, but it's easy to see this trend when a team is winning compared to when they were losing. Let's take a look at one more metric, which could indicate that a team is more cohesive, regardless of if they're winning or losing, and that's how often people are being traded. A trade in this case is counted as a return kill within 3 seconds of another Sen player dying. During the Americas League, Sentinels players died 1,714 times. Out of those deaths, 296 were traded back for a total trade percentage of 17.27%. During LCQ, they died 589 times and only 95 were traded back, making up a trade percentage of 16.13. But throughout the entire Sentinels Invitational, Sentinels died 749 times and traded back 139 of those deaths, meaning they had an 18.56 trade percent, which is significantly higher than before. Now, all stats in Valorant are subject to a fallacy where if a team is winning, they're probably going to have better stats. But still, these are indicators that they are doing better than before. Okay, so it seems like Sentinels are actually pretty good. What's preventing them from being great?
Wait, hold on, John. Shut the up.
He did it on purpose.
Let's finally talk about where Sentinels might need improvements if they seriously want to be at the top. Sentinels have shown promise in defaulting, mid-rounding, and proactivity on defense, but I think their main issue is their post plans on attack. Take a look at this clip from Sunset during their match against G2. It's a full 5v5 retake, and Sentinels have full control of B, but 3 players immediately back out to B main, while 2 players remain committed to fighting the first angles on site. In this position, when you don't have control of market or spawn, you won't even be able to make it to a situation where you can play the tap, and that's exactly what happens. The 2 players on site die so quickly that there's too much time for 3 players in B main to stall off the bomb. One thing to note is how Breach backs off to B main to throw his utility into market, when in my mind, Breach should be right there with the players on site. We see this happen again in a future 5v5 retake as well, when Raze pushes into market alone and dies. I want to see Breach just join his market player so he can actually fight off his own utility. You might get slightly worse util placement, but it's way better to just have another body to fight with. This round turns out the exact same way, where 2 players die on site, while 3 players have backed out to B main, And again, there's absolutely no chance for them to win this round and play the bomb tap because there's so much time left on the bomb. Sentinels lost a good number of advantageous post plans throughout this entire tournament and are definitely going to look to improve on that in the future. We still saw a lot of positive indicators of improvement from Sentinels, and that's further supported by the data insights that we looked at. If they continue on this path of improvement, I seriously think that they can be a top team in Americas next year. Hopefully all you Sen fans out there enjoyed the massive injection of hopium to your day. And thanks for watching.